You know what you should do? You should follow me on Twitter at Brommer018. Link in the description. Do it now. Hello guys, welcome back to our FIFA 21 Custom Tactics series. This is the series where I show you how to recreate and adapt real life tactics so that they'll actually work in game. Today marks the start of a kind of spin-off, I guess, for the series, and that is because we're switching our focus onto the international scene with Euro 2020 or Euro 2021 now in progress. We decided we're going to start with some international tactics. We're going to replicate some of the teams that you're seeing currently in the tournament, and I thought the best players to start off with was probably the team that's been the most impressive so far, and that is Roberto Mancini's Italy system, winning all 3 of their group stage games. As of recording this, they're looking very impressive indeed. A system which has seen them really take the front foot in games, look to take the game to the opposition, a very high volume pressing tactic, we should say, built from possession as well. They've got a lot of good players and it really plays into their strengths. So that is really where we're going to focus on today. If you're new to this series, what we'll do is, first of all, I'll show you any position changes that we may or may not have, which we do have a couple, and then we'll go into the tactics and I'll sort of explain what we do and also why we do it, and then we'll finish off with the player instructions as well, and we'll go through each one of them. It's also worth bearing in mind that obviously we have a smaller sample size in terms of matches that I can watch and analyse to get these systems out. Usually we've got a lot of games that I can go through to really get the tactics. Here we have a much smaller sample size, so it is harder to nail down a tactic, and that's why we won't be having suitable players to suggest, because it's really more of a case of a lot of players revert to tendencies rather than the actual system themselves. So we are going to stay off that, so I do apologise for that. But what can you do? So, first things first, with the formation, it is a 4-3-3 holding, so I want you to find out. But as you'll see here, we've got a couple of changes, and that is the fullbacks. They have both been changed to left wing back and right wing back. The reason why we do that, and we've done it in quite a few videos across the course of the series, is because then they'll just get further forward and they'll also create more width as well. They'll literally be on the touchline. When they're at fullback position, they will still get forward, but it's not quite as exaggerated, not quite as extreme as when they're in the wing-back position, and that's really what you're looking to replicate here. You'll find that the fullbacks are very attacking, get forward a lot, create the most width in the team, particularly someone like Spinazzola on the left-hand side, who has been really impressive so far in the tournament. So we changed both of them to wing-backs, but other than that, we are good to go. So that brings us on to the tactics screen next. First off, in the defensive phase of play, we have press after possession loss. So it was really tough, first of all, to sort of narrow down which one I wanted to go for, because it was very close to constant pressure as well. They're not quite that extreme gegenpressing team who are pressing all the time, but also they are more active than just simply counter pressing when they lose possession. So what the best thing to do is, and you'll see me do this in the gameplay over on the right hand side, is yes, we have this on press after possession loss, but also occasionally when you see the opposition sort of playing it around the back and you want to instigate a press, then on the D-pad you press down and then left and you will instigate a team press for a certain amount of time. So that will really help you as well. So it does require you as the player to be a little bit more active, but that is the best way to replicate it. So do bear that one in mind. With defensive width, this is down to 3. All the best teams will defend pretty narrowly. They want to narrow, pretty much cut out the spaces in between their lines and their positions. You don't want teams playing through you. You want to force them playing around you. And it also plays into the gameplay as well, because basically FIFA 21 gameplay is horrendous, and part of that is because the opposition just don't cross the ball. They'll get the ball out wide into a good crossing position and then they'll just hold it and then cut back and keep jogging back. So you know, bear that one in mind as well. It really does also play into the gameplay and will help you. With the depth of the defensive line, we have this on 8, so it is a high defensive line. We just cut this down a little bit because naturally, particularly if you're playing as Italy in this instance, you've got Bonucci and Chiellini at the back who aren't the fastest of centre-backs. So you have to bear in mind that
with it on 8 rather than 10, they'll drop off a couple of yards, still maintaining a high line, but it will just give them a little bit more leeway, and it does sort of help you out. You will notice that we do get caught out once or twice in the gameplay because of that issue. So that is just something to bear in mind. Offensively, first off, possession. Don't need to explain it too much. They're very much predicated on building it out from the back. That's one thing that their defenders, particularly likes of Bonucci, very good at, comfortable in possession and happy to sort of bring the ball out from the defensive line. So that is really handy. And then with offensive width, this is actually on 2. So the predominant width that's being created in your team is from those fullbacks, those wingbacks. Spinazzola, Florenzi, who of course is injured now, so someone like Di Lorenzo. They're creating the majority of the width. So next, moving on to players in the box. This is on 7. And really what you're looking for is the front 3 will absolutely be getting into the box. Often we see them getting into the half spaces and then getting in behind within the width of the 18-yard box. So they will most certainly be in there. But also, then you may also have someone like Barea, for example, drifting into the box occasionally, and that's really why we have this on 7, because you'll see he's really sometimes bordering, sometimes he'll be in the box, and sometimes he'll be hovering on the outside. Essentially, you've just got a nice balance there. They don't commit too many men forward. Don't forget, you've got the 2 wing backs who will overlap as well. So they are looking for a bit more of a central midfield pivot from the likes of Giorgio, Locatelli, etc. So on 7, you pretty much get that nice exact number of what they're looking to do here. And then finally, with corners and free kicks, both of these are on 4. That's what we usually do for these videos, and they're not really a change. Although the one thing I have noticed with Italy is that they take a lot of short corners, and you do see me trying that out in the gameplay as well. It is naturally harder to do it on FIFA because ultimately you don't get as much control over the gameplay and the players' movement, etc. So it is harder to do, but it's just something for you guys to sort of keep an eye on. Maybe you can try and work out some sort of routine, if possible, from those sort of short corner situations. Next, we have the instructions. What we're going to do here is we're going to start off with the keeper, and then we'll work our way through the field, sort of talking about how and why they do certain things. So first off with Donnarumma, we have sweeper keeper and comes to crosses. Sweeper keeper because of course they are playing that high line, so you want him to be that extra layer of defence. And then when it comes to crosses, him being more aggressive, you'll find that then it will just relieve some pressure on you when the opposition occasionally cross the ball into the box, which is very rarely, but if you're playing on line, you might come across more crosses, and so he'll just release some of that pressure. He'll come out and claim the ball sometimes. So that is really, really handy and does just help you out as the player. With the 2 centre-backs, nothing to change there. Keep them the same. And then with the wing-backs here, we sort of alluded to this already, but now we can confirm it for you. It is overlap and join the attack as well. They're both on the same, both left-back and right-back here. And as we've already sort of said, they are the ones creating the most width. So it's very, very important that you've got them on overlap as well as in those wing-back positions that we did speak about earlier on in the video. Next up with Giorgio, he's really the central pivot of this team. With attacking support, stay back while attacking, as we've already alluded to. And then defensive behaviour, we're on cut passing lanes. Now, it very much replicates what they do in real life. They're not looking to go man-to-man, which I guess is sort of against the sort of traditional Italian way of thinking. They're traditionally slightly more man-orientated, but in this case, in this Roberto Mancini system, they're very much more of a zonal system, particularly in open play as well, and they can really cut off those lanes. It is helpful also, or sort of telling, that man marking in this game doesn't really work very well. They don't follow the opposition midfielders, for example, so cut passing lanes is really the best way to go anyway. Finally, with defensive position, this is on cover centre. You don't want him being drifted out, dragged out even to the wide areas. That should really be the role of the 2 central midfielders ahead of him. In this case, it is Verratti and Barea. They're very much more energetic. He generally stay in the middle of the pitch and sort of protect those central areas. Next up with Verratti, we have him. First off, stay back while attacking. Again, we just alluded to this on the players in the box. He's essentially going to form a double pivot, or even sometimes a triple pivot, with the likes of Giorgio as well. You don't want him getting into the box. He does his best work on the outskirts of the box, really, sort of picking up the ball and then spotting the runners and keeping possession ticking over. So that is really how you're going to get the best of him, and it's the same with stay on the edge of the box for crosses as well. With positioning freedom, however, this time we actually have him on free roam, and it's just really Verratti what you'll notice. Now, when Locatelli, for example, plays in this role, he doesn't really do that. He's got more of a rigid sort of positioning and tactic, instructions. But in Verratti's case, because he's so good, and clearly Mancini has spotted this and tried to work on this, he gets about the pitch a whole lot more. They try and get him on the ball as much as possible because he's just so talented on the ball. And he's really playing it to his tempo, and he's trying to set the game to his tempo as well. So it's something that he does very well. And with positioning freedom, you've very much got that nice, flexible positioning that is very, very fun to play with on this game. And finally, with defensive position, like we just alluded to with Giorgio, these two central midfielders will be on cover wing. You want them protecting those wide areas when the likes of the wing backs will overlap. Moving on to Brea, obviously different to Verratti. We got him on stick to position rather than free roam. He's still on cover wing though, similar to Verratti, but with support on crosses and attacking support. One, get into the box for crosses, but only balanced attack. Because when you got him on forward, he'll generally make runs in behind the striker and beyond him. But you don't want that on a regular basis. You really want him more just sort of supporting those attacking moves, very much taking cutbacks. What you'll find a lot with this Italy team is when the wingers look to get in behind and sort of exploit those half spaces and utilise their clever and pacey movement, they'll then look to try and cut it back from the byline. And it's people like Barea who are going to be on the end of that ball. So that is where you sort of get the best from this sort of set of instructions. So that runs it off for the midfielders. Next, we can move on to the attacking three. And first off, we start with the wingers. They've both got the same roles, Insigne and Verratti in this case. First off, come back on defence. Pretty obvious, I guess, really. They're both going to be looking to track the opposition runs if and when they can. Very, very hard-working team. It's also worth bearing in mind. But it's also worth me saying that Again, because it's quite a high pressing tactic, a lot of the time you want to be, or you would hope to be, winning the ball fairly high at the pitch. So they shouldn't be having to trap back loads and loads. But ultimately, that is there just in case. With chance creation, we have this on cut inside. So I can sort of expand on it more. It's what we've spoken about already here. And that's how the wingers will look to get into those half spaces, and then they'll look to run in behind, and that's what sees them get to the byline a lot. And that's really where you're going to get the best sort of example of this, really, on them cutting inside. You'll find them angling their runs a little bit more, and it does just help to create not only some more penetration, but also to help the striker out as well, which in this case is Immobile. Get him some more support, get runners in and around him as well. With support runs, we actually have this unbalanced, and I found this to be the most effective way of replicating sort of what they do, because yes, they often run in behind, as we've already spoken about, but it is also a possession orientated system, and sometimes they're looking to recycle the ball, and you won't always have the option for players to run in behind because there's so many sort of deep blocks. And so here you've got the best of both worlds, particularly someone like Insigne, who likes to sometimes, particularly sort of emanating from his Napoli days, which is where he'll look to pick up the ball and then drive at the opposition, get it onto his right foot and shoot from deep, maybe outside the box, etc. So you've got the same with both of the wingers here, and then you can get that nice varied attacking approach if and when the game is sort of suited to it. And then with support on crosses, get into the box with a cross. We did sort of speak about that on the tactics section, so you don't need me to go into that too much. Finally, we round it off with Ciro Immobile, really playing that sort of central, traditional striker role. First off, stay central. You don't want him coming into the wide areas of the pitch. You want him to play that focal point. And that sort of couples in with attacking runs as well. We want him on target man. That's really where he's at his best. Now, often he'll score goals where he's running in behind, and he will sometimes do that, but you can get the best out of him by playing it into him and then passing it off and doing a give and go. So if you're on Xbox, that'll be L, B and A, and if you're on PlayStation, it'll be L1 and X. And you can really use those give and goes, and that's when you can look to get in behind. Really, what you're looking for is to play off him as much as you can, and he's got that sort of those traits as well. And it's the same with someone like Andrea Bellotti, who is their sort of backup striker. He can do that similar role as well, looking to hold the ball up, bring others into play, and then you play off him and he plays in and around them. So that is really, really handy, and it's something that does sort of get the best out of him. Finally, with defensive support, have that on stay forward. Again, he's the focal point. You don't want the entire team coming back. If you want to get it over the pitch quickly or to a focal point to look to hold it up, he is the man. So that would round it off for this video then, guys. If you've got any questions about the tactic at all, please do let me know. Overall, a decent tactic for sure. I would say there are some improvements that could be made. I think something that we could have done is really get them into attacking midfield positions, these central midfielders, but it would have just sort of taken away from what Italy do very well, which is really have that sort of double to triple pivot that works out so well for them and complements the two fullbacks constantly overlapping as well. But other than that, it was a decent tactic to play with. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Do let me know any tactic suggestions that you have, and I will be sure to take them in mind. Don't forget to give me a follow on Twitter. The link to that is in the description. And also check out my second channel as well, where we talk about all things real football. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already for more regular content from the likes of FIFA and PES, and ring the bell so that you get notifications every time I upload a video. That is very, very important. Leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it, and on that note, we're going to finish it off there. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.